I'd like to thank everyone for coming to the regular meeting of the Moose Lake City Council for Wednesday, July 14, 2021. And I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have some guests here this afternoon. I just wanted to remind everybody that's on the agenda that it's a 15-minute period for anyone presenting or speaking. Just a reminder, and I try to stick to that pretty close. And if it gets to the point where we hit the 15-minute mark, then I would ask the council members to either close and make a decision or have it as a discussion item on another agenda at the next city council meeting. So just a reminder for people that are new here or haven't been at a council meeting before how it's run. So thank you. Under the agenda, we do have some additions. If you go to 6 new business on the second page, we're down to R, and that will be Lakehead generator disconnect. Then item S will be Greg, and that's the depot and ATVs. One more addition. Until everyone catches up. Under information, reports and correspondence number 7, information from Byron Custer. And I have a handout that I'll give out at that time. That will not be for discussion, but for information for you and review and discussion at the next city council meeting if the desire is there. Anything else, Katie? Yeah. Anybody else? Council members have any other items? You have a motion to accept the agenda? So moved. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to consent agenda under A, minutes, we have number 1, the regular city council meeting from June 9, 2021. Number 2, we have the special city council meeting under June 29, 2021. Do we have any discussion or questions on the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next we have under financial reports, number 1 is the city accounts payable for June 2021. Number 2 is the city financial statements for June 2021. And number 3, the liquor store profit loss statement for June 2021. Before I ask for a motion on that, Alyssa is going to give us an update report.
Mayor, members of the council, the financial reports in the packet bring us through the end of June. With that in mind, I wanted to provide a brief mid-year update of the city's financials and highlight a few notable figures within them. Taking a look at the budget year-to-date report in the packet, the year-to-date amount for the general fund might grab your attention. We expect the general fund to reflect a negative balance at this time. It's an annual trend that we see year over year. As mentioned, this brings us through June, and July is the month in which we will see the property tax disbursement and the LGA funds that come into the account. We're expecting about $450,000 for the first property tax disbursement in July, and in addition, we're expecting about $400,000 of LGA funds. So with that in mind, those will be receipted during this next month, during July actually, and so you can expect to see the general fund year-to-date amount flip into the black on next month's report. Another notable on that same report on the far right is the percent of budget column for expenditures. We're halfway through the year and we've utilized 53% of the budgeted expenses thus far. It's about as close as you can get in budget land, so excellent number to see. Regarding budget activities in the office, Katie and I are going to be starting to meet with the department heads next week. So we will start and initiate discussions for the 2022 budget and get that ball rolling. In addition, I wanted to make mention that some bond payments were made in June. You'll see those in the payables report within this packet as well. You can expect to see one more large one in July for our PFA bond that will be coming out. It's always 2 times a year. It's always really notable when those come through if you're with it searching through the packets. In addition to those, I've been working pretty extensively with the new campground hosts this season. We've been implementing the new reservation system online. We've received some really good feedback from users, the community, and the campground hosts themselves. They really like it. We've only received a little bit of resistance to change, but that was to be expected. The hosts have been doing a fantastic job. I got a little curious and wanted to do an analysis of where we are now versus last year at this time. So what I've determined in 2020, throughout the entire camping season, we received $107,431 that were generated in reservation charges. So at this time, at the end of June, we are at $122,162 in reservation charges. So as of the end of June, we've already surpassed last year by about $15,000. We've got about 2 months remaining in the camping season, so additional opportunities.
I anticipate that's going to taper off a little bit just
Slightly.
because people have been making reservations for August and September and they've already paid for them, which is part of the revenue that we've seen so far. But
Right.
it's still wonderful to see.
Still really good. I got a little curious after these numbers peaked at the beginning of July. Even with just the first week and a half, 2 weeks in July, we were looking at about $8,000 on top of that initial 15. So we're almost at 23, and we can just continue to see that trend upwards for the rest of the season. So that's excellent news. Another highlight I wanted to mention, the 4th of July fireworks fundraiser conducted by the Moose Lake Area Chamber. We are all aware of the additional cost burden this year to the city for the fireworks display. The Chamber, through local businesses and community members, raised just over $6,000 in donations that they are going to donate to the city to help cover the cost. The donations brought the city's out-of-pocket expenses down to about $4,000 roughly. In years past, it's been about $7,500. So that was huge, and a big thanks to the chamber and to the community for supporting that event. That was wonderful to see. The last thing I wanted to share was simply just a communication point that I'm going to begin working on an analysis of the well house project. So with the final contracts close to being approved, I'll be able to determine where we stand, whether it's over or under budget for the project, and I'll be certain to share the results with that when I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Alyssa, appreciate that. That's good news here about that campground, that's surprising.
I'm not surprised.
I'm
I'm so happy with it. I've talked about this a couple different times. I think we could put 1 million more sites in and we'll still be full for the 4th of July. So, but that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to see us put, as a city, put a thank you in the paper and on our possibly the Facebook page to the businesses and people and the chamber for all the donations for the fireworks.
You know, just for everyone's information, I think it's a good idea. We had a chamber meeting at noon, and Katie thanked the chamber and all the businesses and everyone that donated, but I like that idea too.
So
A thank you in the paper.
we will be posting
Yeah.
something in the paper and on our Facebook page, on our website. Part of there was different levels of sponsorship, and one of the levels of sponsorship was a free month of advertising on the Chamber's website, because they have nice sections for that now in their new website. And then, I was gonna write thank you notes to all of the, obviously I can't do the people that donated like $1 here, $1 there, but I can do the businesses. I was gonna write thank you notes to all of them also. So that was huge. I was really happy with it.
Yeah, a lot of support from the community.
Yep.
And a big thank you to Katie and Alyssa for doing a lot of groundwork, effort, and working with the chamber to get that done. It's greatly appreciated. Thank
Yes.
you. Any other questions from the council on the financial reports? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the financial reports? So moved. Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to number 3, public comment. This time is reserved for comments from the public on matters not listed on the agenda. I ask you please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Appears we have none at this time. Moving on to departmental reports. 4A, the police chief department report for June 2021.
Mayor, members of the council, attached is your police report for June, totaling 213 calls for service. We didn't have any calls to MSOP and only one to DOC last month. Additionally, we spent about 1 hour on the Department of Corrections call. Under our self-initiated, we had 48 extra patrol, 32 traffic stops, 41 community engagement. Calls we responded to, 24 were assist to other agencies, 66 calls for service, and 2 medicals. In the first part of this month here, last weekend, we had a small protest at MSOP. Ended up being pretty peaceful, and they weren't there very long, and then they dispersed and moved on. So hopefully we'll be done with that. Just an update, National Night Out is going to be on August 3rd from 4 to 7. It's going to be at the city park. I just confirmed with Kyle today, though, if it's a rain day, that we're going to move to the hockey arena. We've had a lot of people from the community here donating a lot of things for that, prizes. We're going to auction off some stuff. And we're working on some of that today. I know Katie's going to get some of that stuff picked up, so it should be good either way, rain or shine on that night. One thing I just wanted to bring up for you guys to think about, we have it in the budget for a new squad in 2022. Been making some calls, go on our state bid for the squad cars. It's really hard right now to go ahead and order because they don't even have the pricing out yet on them, and they don't know when you're going to get it or whatever. They're just kind of up in the air. During the search, I found out that there were 4 of them at St. Cloud. Tim Bourdais Ford has the Pursuit Interceptor squads there, and they do have one in the dark navy. Something for you to think about. That price is about $38,544 for a 2021 model. I tried to get to him to, what do you think the prices are going to be for 2022? Are we going to see a big increase? And he said, I couldn't even tell you that. He goes, you'd be putting out an order, we don't know when it's coming or what the price is going to be. I'm fine either way because it wouldn't go into service anyway until 2022. So if we bought it, it would be parked. But I'm guessing it would be cheaper buying the 2021 than going after the 2022, and then it gives us time to build it. So something for you to think about if we want to go ahead and purchase that. I think we do have the money there to buy it now and have it sit. So something for you guys to think about. I would just have to, get hold of the dealership if that's something, because I don't know how long it'll stay on the lot.
Something that we had talked about as an idea is if we budget for it in 2022, pay it out of 2021 dollars. We have the money that we did not spend from 2020 in a separate, dedicated fund. We could use that money for this squad and reimburse that fund in 2022, January 1st, if that's what we decide to do. We don't have to do that. We take this out of reserves. We've got options. So if this is something you guys want to move on, it makes me a little nervous to see what 2022 numbers are going to be if we see the trend of the last couple of years. So
What vehicle would we be replacing?
It's really not gonna, the one we have now would currently just move into a spare, a squad, and everything's set up the way it is, not take anything out of it. I'll continue to drive the older Tahoe, and so we'll keep two in. Like right now, even for the 4th, we only have the 2 squads, so it's kind of tough to get around. So the other one will be a completely backup squad that we have now.
What are our miles on our ones we have now?
The Tahoe that I typically drive is at 100,000. I think the other one we have in right now is at about 65 to 70. So by January, 'cause like I said, even if we did buy this other one, it would sit till the first of the year.
Sure.
So either way, it's up to you as whether on the business end of it, you take and buy the one that's probably a little cheaper now and not knowing what the 22 is going to be. Because I was surprised that they even had any in stock here right now. So I'm just going to leave that to you guys.
Well, maybe open for a little discussion right now for the council. Any questions for the council or thoughts on this?
Well, this one comes all equipped, or we still have to put in all of the...
Some of the stuff it comes with, because a lot of the ones they're making now, all the wiring harnesses, everything's there, run to like the corner lights and stuff, but then we would still have to put all the other equipment like a cage and that, but some of the things I've already talked about, like, we're not gonna add into this one, the things that, the light bar and some of these other things that we really don't need are gonna be the push bumpers. I've talked to the other officers and, with the patrol, yeah, we were pushing cars all the time, but here they're not used that much, so there's a way to save on some of that stuff. One of the computer mounts and systems will probably pull out of one and put into the new one, so. But,
So we'll have to buy some,
yeah.
Additional things.
5 to 10 now.
Yeah.
Spend.
something around
Put
there.
that in any, we can put it in 1 year or the next.
What's that?
You can either put it in this year or next.
Yeah. Yeah, so either way, it's,
All-wheel drive?
yes, so it'd be the Ford, Explorer Pursuit package one. So just like similar, we have a little bit different body style, but that's what it is. I mean, I've checked on some of the other ones. I can't even get a quote on a Durango, and the Tahoes are a lot more expensive. So this is probably our cheapest.
And we've had this in the budget, the money's there
This-
since 2020.
It's going to be budgeted for in 2022, but we do have money that we did not spend in 2020.
That can pay for
That
it.
we can pay for it for the short term and then essentially reimburse that fund in
Okay.
2022.
Council?
It's a budgeted item. I mean, it depends if you want to wait now and spend 5,000 or 10,000 more, or, I mean, we've done other things to be creative, but I think that we have budgeted for the item.
I think that I agree. I think that we know we'll be doing this in 2022, so, and we don't know what the increase is gonna be, so.
No.
Or the availability.
Or the availability.
And we've done it with Phil's department as well. He's come across with
We didn't
items that have
save
been
money, I
cheaper.
want to save money.
Yeah. that's-
Yeah. Like I said, it wouldn't be used now anyway. It's going to sit till we have it into 2022, and it would just be there. So I would probably agree on your line of thinking that it's probably saving money getting this one now, but I'm fine either way.
Have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we go forward and purchase the 2021 Ford.
Or, yeah,
For 38,544.
1,544.21.
And whatever necessities need to be installed in it.
Do I have a second?
Oh, wait, those would be next year, right? Come out of next
The-
year.
2020.
Well, if we got it and right now, we probably should just outfit it and have it ready to go for January 1. But again, we'll just reimburse whatever the cost is from 2022. So we'll budget for this, and actually, we can budget for it a lot more accurately.
Because even to equip it right now, we're probably going to be sitting waiting for parts, just like everything else that we've tried to get right now, or anything in the automotive industry. Everything is, you're getting piecemeal pieces coming into you.
So maybe once we have a dollar amount for everything extra, we can bring that maybe next month or whatever.
Yep.
And you guys can approve that at that meeting. So there's not this way there won't be a huge time rush either,
Right.
so.
Who owned this before, or where's it sitting at again?
It's in St. Cloud at
In St.
1040
Cloud.
Ford is the name of the
Okay.
place, and it's a brand new squad. It's just that
Okay.
they had, it's sitting in the lot yet, so.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Do you have any further questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank
That's
you,
all I have.
Darren.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Just pass on and thank you.
Yes.
Moving on, department reports, 4B, Public Works Superintendent Report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, summer is flying by and we are busy. It's good, busy, we're getting a lot of things accomplished. But we'll get started here. We're gonna jump around a little bit, so, sorry in advance. Water department distributed 4.9 million gallons of drinking water in the month of June. The well house has been online now for, it's gotta be about 45 days or so now. It's working well. I like it. Town should like it. It's a big upgrade from what we have. It's very good. The Birch and 4th Street intersection is getting blacked out today, along with the site prep for the new well house. Douglas, I was told, was going to get base course on tonight. I kind of doubt it, so they'll be doing it tomorrow. The old well house is demoed. The old well house is being demoed. The water tower painting project, that's scheduled to start next week. We talked about that. Haven't got any questions, so I'm assuming we're good. If anyone does have questions, please feel free to let me know. And then the 8-inch water main tap for MnDOT, the maintenance garage, was done last month as well, which was, it'll be kind of neat. There'll be a new account user. We'll be able to work with them a little bit on a few things as far as salt usage and water bills and so on and so forth and whatever. So it'll be kind of neat to, another option for us. Sewer department collected 10.4 million gallons of wastewater in the month of June. Treatment facility had a discharge in June, a small one of 17.9 million gallons of wastewater. All our parameters were met, so that was great. ECA is happy with us. We did receive a new NDDES permit, a draft permit, which I believe I put the application in about 3 years ago for that, so it's good to see that we're I'm not kidding, it was literally 3 years ago, so that's good. Sent it to Tyler, our city engineer, one of them, and he reviewed it as well. And we both found some changes in it, some differences from our old permit. In my opinion, I like this one better. It gives us a few more options for operator options, and makes it. I think it's going to make things a little bit easier on my end, especially on meeting the phosphorus limits. There is some additional sampling, but you really can't control that unless you want to put together a case to go fight them. Really, it's just easier just to take the samples and monitor the bonds and the wastewater that way. So I was happy to see that come back, and I was happy to see it come back the way it did. So it's going to definitely benefit us. Lift stations are being cleaned this week. In fact, I think they're done. They should be done, right? So yeah, we worked late last night, we worked late tonight, so we're getting things done. Lining project is kind of in the mid process here. Last year, if you remember, our lining project was extremely streamlined. I mean, they were here for, I think it was 20 hours from start to finish, and it was done and they were gone. This company does things a little different. They do it in stages. The first stage is done, the cleaning process, that's complete. We're waiting for the liner installation right now, and then it should be happening, I think it's the end of July, third week of July, end of July, something right in there, yeah, something like that. And then the manhole work, the rehab work will happen about a month after that. So we're just slowly moving along. Pothole filling as usual on a monthly basis. Just take one swing all the way through town, check it all out. If anyone has any concerns with that, reach out to me. We'll see if we can get them done sooner. Campground seems to be running smoothly on the maintenance side. Obviously, the money things are doing really well there, so that's awesome. Cemetery, that's running smoothly as well. Definitely busy in both those areas, but it's doing good. So we're going to circle back to the water department. We have the old wells, which are the wells we just got done using a month to 45 days ago, right? And there's been some discussion and some questions asked as far as what we want to do with them. Now, Katie's done an awesome job getting grants to seal these wells, which is great. We do have, I think, Ted, you and I had a conversation about
Well,
possibly keeping.
at the beginning of the project, which I don't know how long, we're talking months ago, I requested that we keep initially the best of the old wells available for a length of time after the project. And now the question is the both of them, keeping both of them. But I know that with, Katie got the grant money to seal them, and that if we don't use that money, the grant is given back evidently.
I
Or
don't like
canceled.
giving back money.
No.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know that MDH will think negatively of that, but I can't imagine that they'll think positively of it.
And just for everybody's reason why I asked that, I did that because these are brand new wells. We have 40-some days of confidence in them. The old wells, we've got, I don't know, 40, 60 years of confidence in them. There is a problem with one of the old wells where it is not, it's not restoring like it should, correct?
It's not restoring like it should.
And
The
it's
drawdowns are more than they should be, and they do have a higher level of manganese in them,
Yeah.
that one, and that's well number 2.
And the other well is still fairly good, but it's the oldest well, correct?
Correct.
Which is how old?
I think 52 or 53.
So, and their life expectancy at best is 60 years, maybe?
Yeah, I think I should just clarify a few items though.
Okay, appreciate
So-
that.
Katie did a wonderful job getting grants. She got 2 $10,000 grants to seal wells, but they are both for the old city well on Douglas Avenue. That is
Oh, the old.
the old one
Gotcha.
that got filled in on Monday, and the building is gone as of yesterday, 2 days ago.
Aren't,
Today, yeah.
I
Yes.
thought one was for the old, okay.
No, so
There's too many old.
Sorry, yeah, we have a lot of pots of money floating around, so I do not blame you. If you saw me on my laptop, I had to look it up to clarify it. So you had an estimate of $35,000 to demo the old well
Yeah.
and seal everything, and so we applied for 2 $10,000 grants that had to be applied for a month apart of each other.
That's right, yeah.
So they're
Now
both
it's
getting
all-
applied to that. So to your other point, Ted, we did in the specifications for the new old wells,
Correct.
specify to leave them above grade 2 feet, weld a cap onto them, and leave them in a condition that they could be reused. And that work has already been done. They've been cut off, they've been left, a cap has been welded on them. So we did do that the way we had described it almost a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And so that building is gone as of today, and we're gonna just leave a little bit of concrete slab around there in case Phil needed a working area. So you still have the
New old.
new old wells, and you still have the ability to cap them when you want. But since you had no money for them, we said, yeah, maybe we'll let them sit for a year or 2 or 3 and
And
make sure
then-
your new wells are working correctly, because you can always go back and abandon them later. And at that point, we could also apply for the
A
grants
new-
a
These
second
grants
time
again.
around.
Yeah.
So I would advise not abandoning them right now.
That's right.
Let the new system work, and if you want to abandon them in the future, let's go apply for the abandonment grants and see if we can get another $10,000 of it paid for via grant.
That's right. It's all coming back to me.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, just to clarify before you
No, you know,
get
that's
too
what
far in.
that's what we're here for. The discussion has to be done, and all of us to understand, and I couldn't remember exactly what the whole discussion was a year and a half ago. It's good to go over it and
Yeah.
everybody understand and know where we're at and clarify it. It's
Yes.
great.
So.
So
I think-
you
I
win,
think-
Ted. We'll keep the wells.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page.
It's more understanding than winning,
Yes,
so.
no, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Totally kidding.
Yeah, I appreciate that, thank you.
So that's all I had for now, for this portion.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate that,
Yep,
Phil.
you bet.
All right, moving on, under departmental reports, technology and library report.
The big thing I have for the library was I think they made $1,800, maybe I said this last month. They made close to $1,800, if not a little more, at their book sale. So, they're just trying to figure out, some creative ways to spend that. I think they talked about replacing a couple of the computers in there that are used for, like kids programs and then a card catalog computer, so utilizing the money for those. Laura was gonna work on some quotes, but I have nothing else, nor do I have anything for technology.
Great. Any questions by the council? Hearing none, thank you. Appreciate that. Moving on to liquor store report.
Elaine is gone, I believe, until Friday, so she obviously is not here. And I have not had a chance to ask her how the fourth went, so
Okay,
that's on my next week to-do list.
very good. So agenda item for August. Thank you. Council have any other things they would like to ask on that to be reported to back?
Liquor, are we getting that ice machine? What's happening?
So we did get somebody from AirServe to come down and give us a recommendation, but because it was so close to the 4th and agate days and whatever, I just said, let's just get through July and we'll talk about it in August. But yes, that is on the agenda in August. But every time I've gone down there to talk to her, it's a zoo, so it's really hard to
Sure.
actually talk to her about it, so.
That must be good though. if it's
It
that
is,
busy.
it is a good problem to have, but it is busy. And I know she's mentioned it a few times to me too, we just can't seem to connect, so.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to city engineer report.
So a number of these items we're gonna be talking about later on, so I'm gonna blow through this pretty quickly. Trunk Highway 73, we obviously approved the bid to Uland on June 29th. They're expected to begin, or at least starting to bring material and machinery down here. I think it was the 26th, 29th, somewhere around there.
26th, if their contracts get.
Okay. Yes, their contracts need, yep. Wells, the wells are coming along. The demo just happened of the old well house and the old well house. Patching is in the works, so things are starting to get cleaned up, so it's gonna start to look put together again. We discussed, which four of them actually are included in this later on, but we discussed a bunch of change orders, and Matt's currently working with Lakehead on a number of them to try to come to some type of agreement. So expect some change orders possibly in August for the wells. Water tower painting, our kickoff meeting actually got rescheduled to July 19th. So I think you're gonna start to see people on site very shortly after that. And I have not a very good drawing, but a decent drawing of what it's gonna look like if you guys approve that. Sioux Line Trail is super close to being done. There's a few things, they have to like pick up some cones and do some small other things, and then that will get closed out, and then we will request reimbursement from the DNR for the $150,000. And Phil is working with Tyler and the wastewater folks over at SEH to figure out what our new pond capacity is after the lining project. And the rest of these items, I believe, we'll be talking later on.
And I think the items that you spoke, we made decision they're in the new business. So we won't need any
No.
motion right now, okay. Any question by the council about more discussion or information? Hearing none. We'll move on to Chamber of Commerce updates.
Chamber of Commerce, Allison couldn't make it today.
I think Egg Days this weekend.
Egg Days this weekend, triathlon, I think it's August 7th. The Nine and Dine is the end of July. Brewfest is September 18th. They're doing a virtual golf event. They had a business expo at the end of June. They talked about how the 4th of July went. They did reschedule the fly-in breakfast for August 21st. So normally I think that's in the spring, June maybe.
That's in June.
So the need was there. People were requesting it. Something that we maybe should be expecting from the Legacy of Excellence, which we've donated to them a couple of times in like the last year and a half. But they're putting on a really cool program with some of their high school students, tutoring some of the younger kids that maybe fell behind because of the distance learning. I thought it was kind of a cool program, so they're doing some fundraising and some raffles right now, and I told her to keep us in mind if we have not already donated to them this year, because that's like specifically what the gambling money is for like kid programs and things like that. So I just keep your eyes peeled for that. I might have told her to submit for a request later on. But those are the big things that they made comment on.
One thing I'm going to bring up is the fireworks. As most of you probably know, we had to shoot the fireworks off 15 minutes early because of a storm moving in. And when there's lightning and thunder, if it got overhead, they would have to have shut down. Whether they're in the middle of it or if it hadn't started, they were done. So we decided to go early. We went 15 minutes early and they did it fast. Got it done in 15 minutes. And with all the work that you guys did on collecting money for fireworks was fantastic. But just an idea, 2 years ago, because we didn't have it last year, 7,500 brought us about 45 minutes of fireworks. Now with cost and state laws the way they are, 10,000 brings you about 15 minutes. It has changed that drastically in the year over COVID. Terrible. We also have a restriction where you have to have a 100-yard radius around the place where you shoot off, clear of all buildings and people. The only place we could find that was close to that was the parking lot right behind the Little League field, outfield fence. And even then, the guy, I went down and talked to him, I don't know if Darren did too, but the police, or the fire chief did also. And the guy said, actually, the homes on 7th Street are very close. Our old JC building, which is our like kind of like storage, and the bathhouse and a few of the permanent trailers were within that 100-yard radius, safety radius. So we got a problem. I don't know if they'll do it there next year. And I don't know where we can find a place in the city limit where you have a 100-yard radius to hold the fireworks. These new state laws are very tough on them. The only thing I'm thinking of is we look farther down the peninsula past the place where the tents are, but I think the tenting area, it's farther east. If it's all wetland, then we may run into wetland problems. So I don't know, we're gonna have to kind of look to see what we can do.
I embarrassed myself with many state facilities asking for this year even if we could if we could use some land that the DOC owns along the lake. I asked if we could use some land that the DNR owns, and I think the warden at DOC did everything he could not to laugh at my face, but no, I'm just kidding. He was very kind, but respectfully said no. The land across from where we used to shoot them off, Phil and I went out there, and like the second we got out of the truck, it was like bald eagle, and I'm like, well, there goes that.
There's a nest over
So,
there.
I'm tapped out on ideas.
You can't even be near that nest. So that area right past the walking bridge, there's that field there, which would be perfect, but there's a nest up in those trees. You have to be 1,000 yards away from that. Even the trail was moved because of the nest.
I'd like to see that nest. The last time I went out there, I could not find it. That nest was out there. It must have been like 4 years ago. So I'm not even sure if it's still there.
It is. I saw it, I went out there.
Okay, I was gonna say, I didn't look for a nest, all I saw was the eagle, and I'm like, well, there's gotta be a nest somewhere.
Well,
That was-
It was still there, but I know what you're talking about. I thought the old tree that was there was gone, but yeah, there's one there.
Okay.
But,
So DNR, well, and it's state land too, I don't know, they may not even want to do it themselves, the state, without even the bald eagle. So we just have to kind of look to see what's out there. For the end of the summer, I think that a trek out past the tent area into that brushy, see how wet it is, you know.
the only other thing that we could do is if I knew enough time in advance, is we can block off a certain number of sites, but then we're cutting into revenue at the campground. So I don't know if you guys.
100
necessarily-
yards, if they're at that lake point where they've always been.
Yep.
You have to empty the whole
Right.
trailer park.
And it would be, we'd have to
Everything.
have seasonals move and everything, and so
All
it's
their,
like,
camp, everything.
yep.
Are these new rules that they've made since Todd Hoadley is shooting them out?
Well, not only
I
that, but the
think-
bathhouse is there, and that.
I
creates a
think this
problem.
company's insurance policies state, you have to be X amount of distance away from any structures.
Yeah,
So
and these are state laws, he told me.
they
And I-
they are part,
Yeah.
but they're also, they have to follow.
And insurance.
Yep, their
yeah.
insurance. Yep.
So we'll just have to see what we can do and see if they'll do it that same place next year, if not. But I know once we develop the old football field into
Then
into
we're gonna have
camp,
more problems.
then that place definitely will no longer be usable. So,
We'll
just
worry
kind
about
of a
it
heads
next
up.
year.
That's a heads up thing. All right, moving on to number 5, previously discussed business, Moose Lake Windermere Sanitary Sewer District capacity. And I think that study will be going on with the new
We are
lining. So,
Yep, we're working on it with the engineers right now.
so there will be more to come. Moving on to new business, 6A, Hillside Terrace Apartment Complex Service Line Request.
So Tori is here. Tori requested, submitted in your guys' packet, I gave you guys the report that DLI had put together on a service line request with some maps. Tori gave us a better map here. So essentially, he's requesting to replace his, is it water and sewer?
Yes.
Okay, so water and sewer from the old Kathy's Country Corner to the water and sewer main as noted on his diagram here. The problem that we are running into is that from everything that we have been told, we don't own that section. Where we own is at the intersection of it's Hillside Terrace Road and I don't know, Industrial maybe.
Yes.
There's a valve there, and that's where our ownership stops as far as our records go. And so part of this approval that Tori received from DLI was that he has to connect to municipal services, water and sewer, and that's kind of where the problem is where he's requesting to connect. We don't believe that we own that. So I don't know if you want to go over anything.
Yep. So yeah, that's so I bought this in March of 2020, and that's what Phil originally thought was the city sewer and water kind of stops at that intersection there. Probably note it a little better on this map here. So this would be where that 6-inch gate valve is, and then the platted city street actually comes up here and also comes up here. So there's an area here that's still platted city street, but as far, and the problem is there's nothing in writing, but they think this is a private line, and the whole problem lies is even though I'm connected privately now, I come out the back side of the building, go all the way through mixed court, and it's only a 1-inch water and a 4-inch sewer. But in order to connect again, it would have to be a municipal line. So I know Katie and Phil both put a lot of work into this to try and dig up records or see if there's anything, and weren't really able to find anything. At some point, they decided the sewer in that platted road is the city's, but because there was no maintenance or nothing beyond that point, they said that's where the city's main ends, is right at that 6-inch gate valve. So on this map, that 6-inch valve is there. They're saying the sewer is municipal all the way to here, so I can continue to run my new 6-inch line as proposed, but the water would have to go back to this intersection, which it's kind of hard to see on the overhead, but there's a lot going on in that intersection. And my real concern is it's either ripping up that road or taking down at least 100 trees. And the big thing up there is there's bedrock. So it might get to the point where I can take down the trees or rip up the road, hit bedrock, and the project would pretty much be over. It would be impossible without blasting or something very expensive.
Am I able to ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm Mick Geary, for those of you that don't know me. I own Hillside Terraces, Mobile Home Park. And when you made the comment about the roads there, that it was, you thought, I don't own those, and it's very clear from property records that that's not my land. And this one even marked it a little, the first road that goes up towards Kathy's Country Store, or Tori's place now. That's 2nd Avenue. Here it's labeled as Hillside Terraces. That's incorrect, and I don't own that, so I didn't want you.
Nope, I wasn't insinuating that you owned that. I just was going based off of this, what's on this map. It says Hillside Terrace.
Okay, well, you said you made it sound like it was in doubt, and the records clearly show that that's the city-owned land.
Nope, I'm not doubting that we own that road. I am only doubting that we don't own what's underneath that road.
Okay.
Are you talking the road going all the way up to the building?
Both. Well, so if you're driving down that way, you can go straight, the park is over to the right, then there's the entry sign. You can keep going straight, it's up there about, I don't know, 75 yards or so, 50 yards straight. Or you can veer to the right and head up towards
he's talking
Kathy's
about
Country
this
Store.
section here. I refer to this as Hillside
That
Terrace.
first section is not my property, it's city-owned. It's actually 2nd Avenue on the maps.
Yes. So that's where I always get confused because it's always listed as Hillside
But I
Terrace.
will also
yes.
say, until this came up recently, and talked with Phil, I had no idea that that was
And so,
City property.
When we did that trenching, worked with you on trenching in there, that you made sure you knew that's not our road.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
What trenching is that?
Remember the drainage problem along that road? It was breaking up so bad and.
The only thing that we did, Phil, maybe it was before my time, the only thing that I was involved with is Tim Golbo did up on the north side of the apartment building, because there was water flowing and it turned out it was flowing from up above, but we dug up that area over there, but I wasn't involved in any dig, are you talking about along the street?
Along that road going up to where Kathy had her building there, because that, right at,
Are you talking about
I'm going back.
right in here?
well, let's see, where's, this is industrial,
This is, yeah.
and,
Oh, just where that culvert was put in? Well, that's well.
this is,
This you're talking, yes, then.
this and this, these are not
these-
city.
Correct, correct.
They are not.
Yep.
Yeah, oh, that's.
Right.
So he's talking
About the
this,
Y,
this,
yeah,
this, and this.
I'm sorry, I gotta step a little closer.
it's hard to
So
see
he's talking
that.
this
Yeah.
section and then this section here. So we own, there's a line right here.
Yeah, so I wasn't involved in anything here, but this one, right here,
Yeah.
in the front of
Yeah.
his apartments, that area there, sure, yeah, that's all.
Yep.
I own that
Yep.
lot over there, correct.
Yeah,
And then Regional Electric and Tory has an easement along that road.
you know, through the years with myself, besides Chris has been here a little longer, but for 17 years, I was told right at the beginning that the city never accepted those lines. Water line or
Which
sewer,
line?
because they were put in
From that
substandard.
valve
From the
into
valve.
the court.
Yeah. So that isn't a problem, it sounds like, Tori, you can't hook up anywhere else but at that place?
It needs to be, I mean, it's possible I can hook up behind that 6-inch line, but it's a real mess there already, and then it's hard to say where the bedrock is unless I took down I potholed all the way down that hill just to find a spot that is deep enough, because water line, obviously, you want it buried deep so you don't have freezing, and, you know, ideally you would like nice straight lines as much as possible. So, yeah, my real concern is to dig up the road and get going and hit bedrock or something, and then basically be at a standstill again and not be able to accomplish what I want to.
So what are you asking from the council?
Well, I guess ideally, if there's any way we can make it work where this would be considered a municipal line, if we could work together as far as a maintenance agreement or something where it's.
Are you saying along farther past that?
He's saying,
It's still in your city road.
from this valve here, let's say it's like right about here, to where he's gonna hook into, he wants us to take over clear ownership of that.
How big of an area is, I mean, how long is that? I mean, I can see here, but I don't
It's,
know what the distance is there.
Why would we
I don't
have
know.
to take
I don't know.
ownership of it? Why not hook right into it if it's yours to begin with?
That's the problem, is I can't do a private connection.
he can't.
It has to be a
They won't
municipal line.
approve it.
Even though I'm connected to a private line now, they won't let it happen again, I guess.
The line that you would want to connect to is owned by you, but you can't connect to it. Is that
The line,
a state thing?
Yes.
Like I'm looking for Phil or,
DLI,
it's a what?
Department of Labor.
Department of Labor and Industry.
Minnesota Department of Labor.
Oh, I see.
What makes it a private line, that run there from the valve up to where he wants to?
City never accepted it.
When it was put in, it was not done to city standards.
We're
at the
talking,
time.
we're talking probably, I don't even know, 40, 50 years
So
ago?
then, who does own
It's you,
You
it, well,
it?
yeah.
Well, actually,
You don't own the,
I
you
don't know
don't
how,
own the road.
it's not deeded or written anyway, because I went back to my record. So if I,
If it broke, we
If I
would
own
not fix it because it is not part of the city inventory.
okay,
It was never accepted because there was things that were put in substandard at the time. We're talking so long ago that none of us, I know the person who did it, Don Bean, but I don't know, the council, we did not accept his work. I don't know the exact
Well, what
number.
if-
50 years ago, they didn't accept
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I have the same.
So what if
situation.
it were brought, I'm sorry, to interrupt. What if it were brought up to code at that time, to put that stretch in there, that were then up to the standards that you would expect?
So you're saying what if they replaced?
Yeah,
So
I'm
if-
trying
let's-
to get a better understanding.
If it was replaced and it was up to our engineered, they're
Yeah.
sitting right behind you, our engineered specs, then
Yeah.
we would probably accept it.
So from that,
after
from the
construction.
valve up to where Tori wants to cut into it, if that were brought up to current code, is that what you're looking for?
That would be a conversation worth having.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna tell you, I own the Barnum Mobile Park, and we have the same instance. We are privately owned, all the water and sewer, so we have the same situation with Barnum. So if something happens in the court, we're responsible. if it's-
Oh, that's absolutely
Yeah.
clear. It's just, so now this is under the city-owned road, and that's the only reason it's coming up, because frankly, I don't, well, you can say that, but I really
So
don't.
technically, if something broke, let's say something broke in that
Yeah.
section of road, you shouldn't legally probably dig into our road, but we would let you. We would allow you to fix
Yeah.
obviously we don't want
Well,
it.
it certainly would be in my interest to fix
Right,
it.
right.
Is that line, Phil, in the road, you'd have to dig the road up to replace it?
It's on the edge.
It's right on the edge, you could be,
But
could be
by the
dug
time the
up?
hole was open, you'd be in blacktop, yeah.
So, but the problem may be, it's already on bedrock down there
Well,
also?
that valve is very shallow, it seems.
So the one time I've seen that line dug up and fixed,
Yeah.
the local contractor dug it up, fixed it. They had to mechanically take the repair band apart to get it slid under the water main between the bedrock to wrap around the other side and put it back together and then install it. So I mean, it's right on the bedrock.
What would be let's say Tori had to replace it, what would make it standard or acceptable? I guess I'm asking the engineers and you, Phil.
Well, sure. Obviously, we want to help get service if we can. My understanding right now is, so we follow 10 state standards, so we don't make up our own standards for your public water. We just follow 10
Sure,
state
we
standards.
have to too, we got to.
Yep. So it'd have to be of the right diameter, which I believe it's got to be.
water, 8-inch sewer.
Well, right now, the 10 state standards, you have to have a minimum of 6-inch diameter main.
Correct, but that's what's in the ground.
That's
Sorry, I
what's in
thought
the
that's what
ground.
you were
So
asking.
the upgrade would have to be from a 4 to a 6, and would either have to be a ductile iron, HDPE, or a C900 PVC. It'd have to be one of those three materials. Have to be pressure tested, have the right valving so Phil can isolate it, et cetera. And then we would, tap in a new, if the applicant just wants a service, then it's just a corporation stop to a 1-inch copper line, and it's not like a 4-inch or a 6-inch T or anything to serve the building.
Sorry.
The other thing with it though is once it leaves city right away, if it's gonna be a main, then there's gotta be an easement dedicated to the city, so the city can go up and dig it up, repair it, if something were to happen to it. So those are the primary things that would have to happen for it to meet what you would call the city standard.
Does that help you, Tori, answer your questions that you have?
Yeah,
It sounds like more research.
yeah.
I mean, ideally, if there was a road that could connect into the existing city main and make it up there as a service, that would be probably ideal for all parties. But I think as Tori has stated, there might be a better act, there might be other things. I don't know that. I don't think anyone here knows that at the moment.
Sure.
But I don't know if there's a way to do some rock probes or something else that might answer that question.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're not looking for mains, right, for other future connections of other lots or other buildings, right, just a service line?
Yeah, just the service for that building.
So you're talking about like a 1-inch water and a
No.
4-inch sewer or
No,
6-inch sewer?
I need 1.5 for domestic water, and then I have sprinkler, or I want a sprinkler system, so I need a 4-inch going out to the building. And
Okay.
Is there any possible way that you know of for me to connect to a private line, or?
You know what, I've never really done it. It's a
Yeah.
permit through the Department of Labor and Industry, and you'd have to contact them with the permit you submit and just say, we want to connect to a private line. You two at the table would have to have an agreement for that. I personally just have never been through that, so I don't know if it's, yeah, we can with a bunch of conditions, no, don't even think about it, or I just haven't ever applied for that permit.
And you just talked to Jim, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's all I really talked to either. So maybe I'll explore that a little more, because if it's possible just to do a private connection, I mean, that's what it is now. I don't see why it's a huge deal. And that would make it a lot easier for everyone, I think.
Yeah, and then you just have to document your agreement between each other.
So do you have records that say that section by the valve of where he wants to tap it, that it is private?
We don't have any records of it at all. I don't have,
So I think
I
We
don't
would
have
have,
any.
we would have records that belongs to us, not if it
Correct,
belongs
we
to
would
someone
have, we would
else.
have records of what it
Ownership,
is.
we would have, sorry, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, that's okay. So I'll
Okay.
give an example
So by its
of-
absence, it's
Correct,
private?
I'll give an example of like the John Brown,
Yeah.
neighborhood. When Don Crew put those in, he gave all of those records to Spencer at the time.
Yeah,
And so we have all of those, we know what's in the ground up there.
okay.
So that's,
Is there any way that we can determine that to see if it meets code, whatever is down the PVC pipe? And I think I've seen it before in other portions where it is a 10-inch PVC pipe, at least for the sewer thing anyway. Is there a way that can be determined? Because it really, you dance around it, but it really isn't private. Now, it may have been installed on a weekend when nobody was around. I don't know what happened 40 years ago, but it really isn't a private line.
It's not owned by the city.
well, it's not on, it's
It's
not
under a city,
municipal.
it's under the city street, it's not on my property, I don't know how
Right,
else.
but we won't maintain it if it breaks,
No.
so we don't own it. We own to that curb stop. We're the only place that we've ever done any maintenance is to that curb stop.
I have to, part of my job as a mayor, when we get to 15 minutes, I have to,
Yeah.
because we have a lot of other things, but you certainly can come in and talk to Katie on these items you're just mentioning. And if need be another agenda item on the council, more than welcome. If it can be solved, we're all for you, great. Absolutely. I'd like to thank you for coming, because they're all good questions. And I think some of these are generated by what we've had here, and I hope you find another avenue that'll work and be less expensive for you. Because we're all for more apartments. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, I appreciate your coming. Before you do leave, because you guys are welcome to leave, does council have any questions for them before I move on? I apologize for not asking you guys first.
No, I don't have any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen are welcome to stay, or you can depart, it's your choice, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to new business 6B, temporary on-sale liquor license, Moose Lake Brewing Company.
So the brewery wants to put on their fourth annual, I don't know if they did it last year, the fourth annual Oktoberfest on September 25th. And they're wanting to do it at the arena, so in order to do that, they have to apply for an off-premise liquor license. He was gonna give me a list of all the events kind of going on, but he never got that to me, so if I get it, maybe next month I'll pass it along, but.
Questions or movement by the council?
It's been a big hit past year, so I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second? Second. Before I do, chief, any concerns?
No, I don't.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under 6C flagpole donation, I can explain this, there is some pictures of it in here. The Moose Lake Legion would like to donate a flagpole to be installed, and Greg, you were at the meeting. Maybe not.
I think, no, I missed that meeting, but that's
Okay.
been discussed before because there, years ago, there used to be
Right.
a small flagpole
A large one.
right in the camp, or not in the campground, but in the park.
In the park.
And I have no idea what happened.
So they would like, the Legion would like to donate a flagpole and donate the installation of the flagpole. It would be a steel pole with rope inside the pole, so you'd have an access point, and then you'd raise and lower the flag that way, kind of like the city ones that we have. They're more secure, so people won't mess with them.
I had a question while
Yeah.
I was looking at this, after you and I had talked.
Mhm.
Looking at this photo, the flagpole looks giant, and I don't know if it's just the photo, but it looks huge. Is there
Yeah.
any way that we can work with them on the size, just
Oh,
so
they're
the
absolutely
flag,
open.
okay.
I think that one was 40, and at the meeting at the park board here yesterday, he said that they were willing to discuss size.
Okay, perfect, because I don't know that I want one taller than the trees. That looks so tall.
Yeah,
So,
and
okay.
they're open to work with the city on whatever, and,
Perfect.
and location, they would like to have it near electricity so they could light it.
So I did go down there on Monday, I believe.
Okay.
And there is space in between, the bank donated some nice benches and the pavilion. There is some like green space next to like the sidewalk area. I think it would fit in well there and be close to
Very
power.
visible and close to power.
Yep.
Let's make sure that you get one that locks too. And
Yeah.
most of those on the inside ones will have a lock on it, or the handle is removed so that they can't
Yeah.
No one can
take
mess
that
with
down.
So we have consensus to work with the Legion?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Thanks, everyone. So we got consensus, David. Thank you. Under 6D, Lakehead Constructors Incorporated Pay Application Number 8.
Okay, application number 8 is through June, and it is $83,609.50. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there.
Yeah. So we have a motion and or discussion on council on pay application number 8. Your motion?
Motion made.
Do we have a second?
Can't get out of my head.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Under 6E, pump house facility change order number 1.
So this change order, we actually already paid, I don't remember how long ago, but, so we just need to get it formally approved. It was for to add a butterfly valve for isolating the system. In the amount of $2,064.89.
Was that an engineer mistake? Over?
I think he forgot to have the silence yet.
No.
I never said it out loud.
No, and I apologize for this one and the fact that it was included in pay application, I think number 5.
Yeah, it was somewhere.
And I forgot to have Katie get the sign off and it went through and I didn't catch it. So my fault. So at this point, you already paid it. I just need approval for Katie to sign it so we have documentation that it actually happened, so.
Appreciate that.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You're out of the water. Boy, you went down. All right, moving on to 6F Pump House Facility Change Order number 2.
So change order number 2 is for that lovely foundation that was hidden under the garage in the amount of $11,720.
So this one goes back to day 1 of the project. We started, or maybe not day 1, the garage was moved, day 1 of digging. They found an old foundation from an old building that used to sit on that lot. No one knew it was there. We had to pay We had to direct them to remove it, obviously, because we needed to put wells in and piping, et cetera. The only reason it wasn't paid already is because of this spring when we resumed and did the water main connection. We thought there might be more of it that we'd have to remove. Ended up there was not. So this is amount that we agreed to last fall, late last fall. We just didn't pay it till now. Thankfully, there was nothing else to remove this spring. So it's work that's already been completed. We just haven't paid for the change order.
We have a motion and no discussion on the change order number 3. Are we on 2?
2.
We're on 2. I jumped ahead. Sorry.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
And this is the dock and basement foundation. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Under G, pump house facility change order number 3.
You wanna go?
I'm trying to remember. So this is Douglas Avenue?
This is,
No, First Street.
Birch and Fork.
yeah, Birch and Fork. Lowering,
Shallow water main.
yeah,
Oh,
shallow.
the insulation. Okay, I was thinking of the soil correction. Sorry.
No, this
Okay.
We're getting there, don't worry.
Yeah, we connected to the water mains out in Birch and Forth as part of the project. When we got out there, we found that the water main was shallower than expected, about 5.5 feet or so to the top of the main, which generally we design for 8 and accept anything about 7 or so. When we saw it that shallow to protect your infrastructure, we instructed the contractor to insulate the water main to protect from freezing into the future and for the connection to the new well house. So that was the price to put in 2 layers of 3-inch styrofoam board insulation along your existing water main and portions of the new well.
And this is for $2,384.
Yes.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Under H, Instafoam Technologies Pay Application number 1. Did
I
I
want-
say that right?
No.
situ form.
No, you didn't,
Say
but-
that again?
In situ form.
In situ form. I was just testing you guys to see.
To
I
make
only
sure
know
we
that
do.
because I've heard it before, otherwise I wouldn't know.
Good job.
Yeah.
You guys did a good job.
So this is pay application number 1 in the amount of $16,578.26. And this was for mobilization and I believe cleaning and telephone.
Any questions or motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Have they actually put any in yet, Phil?
Nope, not yet.
Your septic? Getting
End of the
close.
month.
Okay. Down to I, Northland Constructors of Duluth Pay Application number 2.
So pay application number 2 is for $20,344.44. If you look on the first page of this item, there's one item that went over what we anticipated, and that was for riprap. But we needed it, and so this contract went a little bit over budget. But I anticipate if they clean up everything, we'll close this out next month and go for reimbursement. So
Very good.
we're real close.
Do I have a motion to accept the pay application number 2?
So moved.
A second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under J, water tower design proposal.
So when we started going through to figure out what paint coloring things that we wanted for the water tower, I had emailed you guys out a better photo. I should have included it in here and I didn't. But essentially it's a dark base with a white top, I guess, with the same color for Moose Lake. Asking what you guys thought about that, and I think the majority of you guys responded to me saying that that was a nice design. So what we did was we got a quote from Central Tanks, who's doing the painting, and the increase for the Cadet Blue is $6,500, and it's gonna go right where it's like, it looks striped on your photo there. So it'll be blue base, white with blue Moose Lake. And it's like the darkest blue that I could pick from. So I just need approval on that if that is okay with you guys.
Questions by the council? Does it say welcome, Moose Lake?
We're just replacing what it says, which
Okay.
is, I think, just Moose Lake.
I think it says welcome. Moose
So I
Lake.
think this is a picture of it.
Well, I think you're right.
Wow, maybe I am.
I think one side says
One side.
welcome as
Well,
you're coming
maybe-
in, and the other side
Coming
I
in
think
from
says-
So we're both right.
Coming in from the
Yeah,
freeway.
I think that's what it is.
You're just trying to make it so they don't fight.
Just trying to keep the
Yeah,
peace.
keep the peace, yeah.
Good job.
I don't need any extra work.
So the colors aren't contrasting, the blue and the blue Moose Lake, are they the same color?
It'll be the same color, yep.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a motion to accept the proposal?
Doug just did.
Who did?
Doug.
Yes.
Doug did. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Thanks, Katie. Good work on that. Moving on to K, Utility Maintenance Agreement, Carlton County, County Road 10.
So this agreement is in conjunction with the trail project. We have to essentially agree to maintain the storm sewer that they'll be putting in because of the trail. So Phil knows about this. Phil loves it. I just need approval.
Where is this going in? Right at the highway?
In Hoffman's, it's Hoffman's permanent easement that we just got from them.
I got you.
So,
Okay.
and along there, along that stretch, County Road 10 part.
Sure is.
All right, very good.
One more thing, right? Just one more thing. Oh, yeah.
No, we already talked about this. It'll be 20 years from now. They'll be out somebody else's. Oh, yeah, that's you.
Right.
Get your
right.
shovel.
Yep.
All winter.
Yep, all winter. Never stop.
Do we have a motion to accept the utility maintenance agreement?
We don't want to, but
Chris, you made the motion?
yep.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under L, Forest Street reconstruction estimates.
Okay, so last month, just to give you guys a story, last month we decided to do a couple of things. We got a quote, an updated quote for what was in the CIP plan for 4th Street from Douglas to house number 212. That's included in here. The cost was like $800-something thousand. We then, at the time I thought it was close to 600, which I knew it would be increased, but I then was curious to know what Elm to the campground would be. So we do that 4th Street one time. Well, it's $2.5 million, so I shredded that one and we went back to the drawing board. We were in a meeting and I then asked them to get a quote from Douglas to up to the campground, so essentially just getting rid of Elm because that's really the expensive block, and seeing what that would be. And then I thought about it like future-wise for the next few years, and if we do an expansion to the campground, at that time, in my opinion, is the appropriate time to redo from Birch, well, Couillard technically. So wrap that into the bond payment there. So what the final product that I am recommending is from Douglas to Birch. It's 2 blocks, 3 intersections. It's
333.
Yep, 1.3. I anticipate at the end of 2021, we will have just over $1 million in sales tax. We will then be able to accumulate whatever we get in 2022. And we've got some other funding sources, such as like the gas franchise that we can use. So I think we'll have enough to cover that 2 block section. So Tyler's gonna talk about some of the reasons why the estimates have, gone up based off of recent bid openings, so.
Members of council and mayor, thank you for having me tonight. So yes, a little bit of sticker shock with these estimates. We're opening some bids on various projects throughout northern Minnesota recently, and prices have gone up quite a bit. Your piping for utilities, sanitary, water main, storm sewer have all almost doubled as opposed to what we saw a couple of years ago. Bituminous has gone up. We're seeing, over $100 a ton for bituminous, where a couple of years ago you're maybe getting at $60 a ton. I've just heard the other day that there's big aggregate shortages as well for class 5 and whatnot. So that's some of the reasons why you're seeing these increases in costs. If we could look solely at what was in the CIP report, from Douglas to that House 212, I ended up including the intersection at Douglas in this estimate for utility connection reasons and just improving that in there. So that's why that's a bit higher as well from the CIP report. And again, just inflation as well takes into account, because the CIP was done 2 years ago. There's just general price increase with that. We did these estimates assuming the typical section that was used in the CIP report, with a 28-foot wide road from face of curb to face of curb, new curb and gutter along the entire thing, 4-foot boulevards on both sides with a 5-foot sidewalk on both sides of the street. So, there's room there too for the council to make decisions. You really want sidewalk on both sides of the street, you can do it on one side of the street. The 28-foot wide street allows for typically one-side parking, parallel parking, and then two-way traffic. So there's, things that you can look at to adjust those. If you want to replace street trees, there's a lot of trees on that road right now that would all have to come out to get services in, to get curb and gutter in. If you didn't want to replace trees, that would be a savings. Street lighting, I actually don't think I added street lighting into this estimate, but that's another thing to take into account. If you want street lights, that's an added cost. So there's a lot of reasons why those prices have gone up. This is kind of worst case scenario. We want to give you that sticker shock. Hopefully, in a year, prices come back down a little bit, either maybe at the end of the season or whatnot. But just taking our conservative approach with it, just so we don't have shocks later down the road.
So I guess,
I had a question
Yeah.
right away. Let's say that we figured out all these things we're talking about. When are you looking at going out for bid on this?
well, that would be when we want to go out for bid on this.
Well, are we if we're saying next year, would we try to be ready by January?
Ideally, we would
Would
want
like
to
to be-
bid it, early January would be
When you
probably
get
your best
price.
season
Yeah.
for bidding. Maybe even December if the schedule would allow it. Would have to be early December, of course, before the holidays.
So some of the things, no matter where we do a road, some of these things are the first time some of us are making these decisions, such as sidewalks, trees, street lighting, things like that. But in my perfect world, a way to avoid these continued conversations, street after street that we do, is just to pick a standard that this is what we do unless there's an extraordinary circumstance where it doesn't allow for a sidewalk on the north side or whatever we decide. But a general idea so that they know what to estimate for. We know what to expect, the citizens know what the road's gonna look like, etc. So I think the first thing that we should talk about is whether or not you guys want to see, I I would not recommend doing the entire 4th Street from Elm to the campground. The only way we could afford that is if we bond, which we could do, but we could not pay cash for it. 4th Street to House 212, in my opinion, it's not enough of a project. We're gonna be disrupting that whole neighborhood anyways. We may as well just finish that block, in my opinion. So that brings us to the 3rd estimate, which is Douglas to Birch. And so that would be my recommendation, is to move forward with planning those 2 full blocks with all 3 intersections being reconstructed completely. So I guess first I need to know kind of what you guys are thinking in regards to that.
Just a quick question. So it's dirt right now going up into the campground. Would we do an overlay until we decided to have a big
No.
job down there? It would stay dirt for a year?
My idea with Couillard is to keep that as is and fully reconstruct that when we redo the campground. So that when we bond for whatever the improvements are in the campground, we include that in the bond. Because realistically speaking, mostly used by people entering and exiting the campground. Very few coming from the park, maybe a couple, but mostly campground,
I think it's
the
one
campground
way and they
entrance.
would
Well,
have to go
yeah,
through
you're
the
right,
campground.
you're right. But the majority of it is campground. So I think we have a strong case for doing that. And then if we do that, taxpayers are not paying for that because we would take revenue made from the campground to pay for that bond.
Let's just say it could be a couple of years though.
In my perfect world, it will be 2023. But that's my perfect world.
Okay.
So, but maybe we could add that as an ad alternate just to see what it would cost.
Just curious,
Mhm.
just in case.
And then you could decide
It
whether
could
or not
be-
you accept
It could be, yeah.
Right, because that's the other part is, this is preliminary cost estimate, you know, we won't know until bids come in.
Yep.
If they come in very favorable,
Yep.
then you might want to add something on.
Yep.
Just my opinion on the sidewalks, I would like to see what we have already back in place.
So-
Sidewalks on both sides.
You're getting ahead of me.
I know I
You're
am,
getting ahead of me.
purposely.
We need to, I need to know if you guys want to do this project, the 3rd estimate here.
Council?
Or what, if you guys would like to see something else.
Greg? Chris?
I mean, you're looking at the different things that we can do, and this seems to fit in as the best choice, so that we could maybe at least do something. I mean, we can help them stay in business.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, we don't keep them busy enough.
Chris?
I mean, I agree, I just, with how many of the campers come through down Elm and actually go down that way? Do they come in the?
Come up like by our office.
Yeah. Because I see them coming down First Street around, I see them coming in from the side, so I'm just, I mean, every road needs to be done, so
I see so I don't sit out there anymore, but when I did sit out there, a lot, in my opinion.
That's just such a
It is.
tight road, I just wonder if that's the most utilized way to the campground.
Yeah, I don't know though if we redid Elm. Are you talking about redoing Elm? Like
No,
you'd like
I'm just
to?
wondering, is that the
First Street.
best way? Because I mean, I see them coming down,
They go
every
down
road
First.
is bad.
They-
Every
Rock
road
Road.
is
I
bad.
don't think we could make a bad decision on a
Yeah.
road.
I agree.
But I guess are you asking if we should repave Couillard? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm just wondering if that 4th Street is actually
Well, that's,
mostly used.
I don't think it's used. That's not, I don't think how the CIP was put together, but it was taken into account the condition of the road, the condition of the water, and the condition of the sewer, and probably the undersized storm sewer.
Right, there was a portion of it that took into account the traffic volume on it. But The reason that it's at the top of the list is because the utility infrastructure, I think, is what brought it to the top. Because the water main is undersized.
Right.
And sewer, I think a portion of the sewer main is undersized as well.
And
there's
definitely
definitely
storm
some drainage issues, I believe, that
Yeah.
are happening, so.
I mean, we can't go wrong.
Right.
We have to do every street, but I'm just wondering if that was if we're doing it for campers coming in,
No,
if that was
nope.
the most utilized.
Nope, I am not doing this for campers. I'm not recommending this for campers, I should say. This is just number one on the list, so.
Walter?
I guess I got one concern. Are we gonna be able to stick to our 3-year timeline with all these cost increases here? I don't think inflation is gonna stop anytime soon. Will we be able to do another project in 3 years? Will we be able to stick to that? I think now that $87,000 that I had brought up taken from the police department budget, you can see how important that is when we're trying to do these projects right here. $87,000 in 3 years would have been an extra $261,000. In 10 years, with raise increases and everything, it would have been closer to $1 million we would have been able to put in towards these projects. I think we're in a serious situation here where we do not have enough money to do these projects, and now we're looking at whether or not we're going to be able to stick to a 3-year timeline. That'll push back everything farther and farther and farther. Would I like to see the 2 blocks done? Yes, I would. I'd like to see it done over the 1 1/4. The 1 1/4 blocks isn't even worth doing. 2 blocks isn't basically worth doing for shutting down all the streets and all that stuff. And then when are we going to fix the rest of 4th Street? The rest of 4th Street is trashed. Or is that going to have to be moved back to some other point on the list to be done in 120 years or something like that?
You guys are asking questions.
So I don't know where the rest of 4th Street is on that list. I do know that number 1 on that list was 4th Street from Douglas to house number 212. The remainder of 4th Street on that end of town is only the section from Elm to Douglas, so it's only 1 block. But it is a very expensive block, and I get where you're coming from. However, I get real excited when I talk about this, so I need to limit myself here, but in 2023, well, no, I don't have it here. As of June 30, the liquor store owes the sewer fund only $97,000, which means we will start to make an actual profit in the liquor store likely in 2023. So if I were you guys, I would take that money that you make in that liquor store, which will be right around $100,000, give or take, and I would put that into a separate fund very similarly to what we have with the sales tax, and use that for road projects. So that will be an additional, let's say, revenue source that we've not had since that liquor store has been built. And so is it going to double your revenue? No, but it's certainly going to help. It's going to help build that, the money that you guys we can all spend on road projects much quicker. We just don't have that currently. So we're really, really close. I said 2023. I meant 2022. In my head, it's already 2022. But so am I frustrated that this will potentially deplete our sales tax? Yep. But does it discourage me enough to not recommend this? No. I think that this is a wise use of money, and we have opportunities in the next couple of years to build it up again fairly quickly. More quick than we have the last 3 years.
It doesn't count into the count that things come up like having to replace 2 wells at over $1 million.
Yep.
There may be something else that comes up that takes the money over. I mean, we can't count on you can plan and plan and plan, and then reality sets in, and I think you know that running a business, things can change like that. Whoever planned that COVID where you would be shut down for a year, or have to have wells that cost over $1 million. Those are realities that we're gonna have to face. Right now, with the state of affairs throughout this state and the country, I'm glad we have a police department at the size that we have, tell you the truth. I'm very comfortable with that. And I think other communities, and I know Minneapolis, people won't even go downtown anymore. I don't think taking the money from, if you're gonna take money from one department, you have to me, do it in a logical way and a percentage from every department, not just one. Because to me, it took decades to build every department to where they are for a reason. And the reason they were built up is because the community wanted them.
I
So
think-
to take it from one, I think is not right. I think you, if you're gonna do something, you take it from a percentage from every department.
I will also say that this number is, it says draft on here for a reason. This is not the final number. There are ways that we can strategically, if you guys want to, save. So one of those would be, which I know Ted's feeling on this, but one of those would be, do we want sidewalks on both sides of the street? And again, when we go into these decisions, I want everyone to think of this street, 5th Street, 6th Street, 7th Street, 1st Street, 2nd, every street. If we can keep them as uniform as possible, I think that would make all of these decisions much easier going forward. So I'm just gonna run through my list that I have, and you might have more, but do we want sidewalks on both sides? Do we just want sidewalk on the north side, or do we just want it on the south side? Okay, that's one. Whatever side you choose to have sidewalks, if you decide to have sidewalks, do you want it a boulevard style, or do you want it to be right next to the curb? So it'd be curb sidewalk. Whereas right now we have that green space with trees. That's my next one, trees. Right now we have a lot of trees that are beautiful, beautiful and wonderful, very expensive to maintain. So we have to think of it kind of from that aspect, because now we're kind of bearing the repercussions of all of those trees, and now we have to remove them when they're dead. I don't think street lighting is in here, but street lighting would be another one if we want to add it, or if we don't need it. I don't think we have any except for on light poles, or no, the power poles right now.
One at Cedar, right?
Is there?
Power pole.
So
Might be the only one.
what we could do is, we could take that on ourselves and just replace that. It doesn't need to be a part of this project if we want it replaced. So those were the big ones that I could think of that we had talked about.
Yeah, I mean, it, also just general street width. Are you okay with a 28-foot wide street? Is that, do you think that's enough parking room to have cars drive?
Do we have that
If you
now?
have campers going through?
Do you know what we have? It is 28?
I believe it's 28
Okay.
between Douglas and Douglas and, I'm forgetting the street.
Cedar and Birch.
Cedar and
Cedar?
Birch. I believe
Yeah.
it's 28. It's wider as you go west towards downtown. There's,
Oh, sure.
It's wider
Right.
in that by
It
like
does, it does,
CenturyLink.
it does, yeah.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you said it was like 30 some, whatever.
I-
But
Was that because there's not a sidewalk on the one side of the street?
there's sidewalk on both sides of the
I
street.
think on one side, at one point, the grass, you know, there's no trees there anymore. I think they took the boulevard out at one point. And that would be along that big parking lot up here,
By the power.
where the old, the old skating rink was. But there, I don't think there's a boulevard but next to that sidewalk anymore. I think it was taken out and widened for, at some point. I don't know why, but it was.
Yep, and there's, in all those decisions too, we've done this many times, and we have pros and cons of a lot of those decisions that we can help share too, if you're trying to make up your mind, so.
You know, there's a lot of things here to discuss. Should we be setting up a working meeting? you don't want to.
In my perfect world, I would like to make some of these decisions sooner rather than later so that we
Yeah.
can move forward with the, I mean, these are just estimates. We've not even done any planning, as far as the utilities go, which is, I would imagine, gonna take more work than picking sidewalks and things like that.
Well, I think every street is gonna have different, you know, areas where it's not gonna be standard. you know.
I guess I would just like to create some type of normal, like,
Yeah.
standard so that when next time we're gonna review Sixth Street, we don't have to have these same conversations again. So, that's my only, I guess, reason for making this a bigger deal than maybe it needs to be, but.
One thing about sidewalks is we no longer have the school down here, and there isn't as much traffic of small kids walking back and forth. And I think some of those sidewalks were designed over the years because of access to the school, so.
Probably right.
Because one thing I'd just like to add, and Katie's been referring to this, but think of this as kind of a citywide standard, not a 4th Street standard. And yes, Chris, you're absolutely right, there will be differences, but in general, most communities will set a standard because you have so many streets that are the same width, the same right-of-way, the same everything. You can always give yourself a variance to that standard, but to be thinking of it so that the next time you do a street, it doesn't look totally different and you have a whole bunch of political, backlash at you going, why did they get 2 sidewalks when we got 1, or they got a street light and we didn't? So that's why I would say, if you can, think of it in the bigger picture of, think of a standard that would apply for 80% of the city. It's not gonna apply everywhere. And think of it that way, so it's beyond the 4th Street thinking, and then you can apply it, as Katie has said, into the future and change that if you want in the future.
And while money is usually number one on like my priority list, I don't think that we should think about this in dollars and cents. I think we should look at this as, like Matt said, what do you want this to look like across the city? Because I don't think that, let's say doing one sidewalk, I don't think that it's gonna cost enough to significantly drop this number to a manageable number. It's just not going to. So don't think of money when you're thinking about these items, except for the trees.
There's so many items.
Well, and to add to that, though, the sidewalk goes beyond the initial cost. You have initial cost savings if you only put 1 in, but you also have the maintenance of that sidewalk, the panel replacement that Phil's gonna have to do. Right, look at around your city, you could have a separate sidewalk program and just go fix sidewalks, right? So if the number of sidewalks is cut in half, that liability, that future liability would also cut in half. So there are, same with the street width, less pavement to maintain, less pavement to initially buy. If you want to allow on-street parking, most communities would want to, but 28 is kind of that sweet spot of you can still have 2 lanes of traffic, pass an ambulance and whatever, and still have car park. You can go wider than that, it's more comfortable, everyone likes it more, but you pay more for it and you pay more to maintain it. So it's, those kinds of decisions is what, we'd like the council to be thinking of.
I would just bring up that we also have trees that are 60, 70, 80 years old that are dying. And when we're gonna be doing these projects, we need to look at, okay, should we pull those trees out? And if we're going to do that boulevard, do we want something smaller there? Do we just want grass there and no trees? Because we run into the problems with all these lines, tree roots are going to the lines, and they become the homeowners' problems. Now's the time to be discussing that, because it's just gonna be the next council's issue, and the next person that takes your job over somewhere down the line, so.
Well, I kind of like Ted's ideas, maybe having and it could be soon, working to discuss, because these aren't just things you want to just throw out tonight.
Oh, come on. I'm just kidding. That's fine. We'll, I'll pick something I'll send you guys a couple of dates. If you guys have anything that doesn't work, just let me know. But just be thinking about sidewalks, boulevards, not boulevards, trees, street lighting. Be thinking of like the aesthetic things that you want this community, for the most part, to look like.
Well, and does that kind of go along with when we did the beautification project? Kind of set standards, right?
Yeah.
I can help develop a list for you too. if you
Yeah,
want
that'd be
items
wonderful.
to go over.
That'd be great, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so you will send out
I will.
dates for us to, there'll be a working council meeting. And I would imagine at a working one, you do not make motions, I believe. You make decisions and bring that to the next city council meeting, so we want to definitely have it between now and then.
I can just organize a special city council meeting.
Yeah, great. Anything else on this?
Any other questions?
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Next item, M, gambling permit, Moose Lake Area Historical Society.
Historical Society wants to hold some events, looks like September 18th, October 16th, November 13th, and December 11th.
Let's go for it.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And before we move on, we did agree on the area, the 3 intersections and the 2 blocks.
So that's what I'm gonna focus on.
That was consensus, okay. I just wanted to confirm that. Okay, and gambling permit, American Legion Post 379.
This was for over the 4th of July.
Absolutely.
All right.
Sounds like a great idea, motion to approve.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion, no, nay for, motion approved. Moving on to O, memorandum of understanding, Human Development Center.
So this is the agreement that all of the communities in Carleton County that have police departments go into with the Human Development Center, and that's that social worker that works down here. Is it 1 day a week?
Yeah.
Comes down here 1 day a week and maybe as needed. So
This is something that's normal that's done. Any discussion by the council? Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I know Darren did some work on this, so thank you.
We've been using them a lot this week, and it's really paid off. It's limited our time. You actually have to go out with a party that we've been dealing with multiple times and get them some court hearings and some other things related to that. So he's been down here a lot, and we're just calling him directly when we go to the calls. So we're getting some use out of it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Now we have 2 items that are closed. We'll have to close as we went to them. So we'll move on, we'll skip P and Q and go on to R, which is Lakehead Generator Disconnect.
I was hoping you were gonna start.
no, I don't even know how to start. Okay, I'll start. This was not included in the original, bidding documents that Lakehead had submitted for. So this is a change, this would be a change order. So we would have to pay $19,333 to have a generator disconnect installed on the well house. And Phil's gonna explain what that, or Matt maybe, they're both gonna explain what that would do for us.
Good question. Wasn't thinking about other people's bid that bid on this. But
No,
we have-
no, because they all got the same stuff.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, nope.
because Seeing all these change orders coming and then somebody else bid maybe 100,000 more, now we're spending $200,000 more.
Nope, so all of these change orders, like the butterfly valve, that would have happened regardless of who would have got it. The installation, that would have happened, and obviously the basement, that would have happened too, so.
Thank you.
Phil?
Okay,
Okay,
so just explain what this would do.
so. It's a generator. plug it. No, I'm just kidding. It's, so this is a little different, okay? So like some of the equipment we have in town, our big lift station, we have a standby generator, no problem. It's already hardwired, power goes out, fires right up, everything's fine. Our little lift stations, they have the industrial receptacles, the heavy duty plug and play, hook it up, electrician would know here, right? So they all have receptacles, not like your wall, but a big heavy duty, probably a 480 volt plug-in.
Right, have an emergency hookup.
Correct, but it's a big plug-in. Plug it in the generator, fire it up, away you go, right? This building is too big to put a plug-and-play system, they call it, on there. So what they call it is a curve key system or a curb key system.
Well, it's for the purpose of what you need to operate, you can hook up to a portable generator with just a plug.
Correct, but it's all hardwired and landed wire. So typically on the water side, we don't worry too much because we have usually a tower full of water and we lose power for an hour or two, we're usually okay, right? Not a big deal. This is more of a,
Flood.
A flood, if you lost power for multiple days, tornadoes, something along that line, right? So it's more of a, I'm not gonna call it temporary solution, but a long-term temporary solution to where if you're out of power for 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever, we could hook something up, get water back onto the city, and things are still moving. They're not great, but we still have water and things are okay. Regardless, whether we put this in or we don't, and we were to get an on-site generator in here to run for multiple days, whatever, regardless, we still need to hire an electrician to land the wires, whether we put this plug-in in or not. It's not something I can just go plug in like the lift stations I can. That's not a big deal. This is totally different. This is, no. So there's a little bit, this one for me is difficult. As an operator of your utility, I like as many backups as I can get. I like, give me 10 of them, great, love it. It's a lot of money. However, we did have Matt take a look at a couple things with their electrical engineer, and I don't know if you want to show
Yeah,
that.
well, so I'll just add one thing real quick. As Phil said, you're gonna have to hire an electrician if you had to have a backup generator. The difference here is instead of going into the door and ripping your electrical panels apart and connecting it, it's gonna be hardwired to the outside of the wall, so you just connect the wires at the outside of the wall. So it's saving you ripping your electrical panel apart and dealing with the door that might be open in the middle of winter. That's the difference here. Doug, you brought up a great point I just wanted to hit on. The 3 change orders you approved tonight were ones that, number one, we directed them to do, and we, being Tyler and I and Mark Wallace, who's not here, reviewed all of their costs and made sure they were in line with how they bid the project and standard prices. Otherwise, we wouldn't recommend them. So there was one even that we got knocked down before we presented to council. This one, to your point, all we did is said, we might want this, we don't know, give us a number. So I would tell you, it might be worth your time to look at going and getting another quote for it. We don't have to use this. This is just a convenience because it's the electrical contract that's done everything on site. My gut feel is that this is a high quote, going on what my electrical engineer who wrote the 2-sentence spec for what to price this on. We feel it's probably almost double what it needs to be. Now, we haven't given that feedback to the contractor yet, but just knowing it's PVC, it's wire, it's an actual switch, and a bunch of labor. So.
Is this something a local contractor could do once this project is totally complete? Or is there complications with the construction and the way things are laid out?
We talked about that.
I don't know your local contractors in Moose Lake, so I can't answer when you mean local, if there's someone in town, I don't know what.
Would this be an electrician?
Yep,
Excuse me.
this would be
Okay.
a-
Could it be a separate contract?
Yeah, a separate contractor could, I just don't know, is there one in Moose Lake? I don't know that answer.
We probably have all of them available from Duluth here, so I mean,
Right, I think,
Yeah.
so we talked about, just getting an estimate from the local contractor here, kind of to compare, but I think one of Phil's concerns in a lot of our buildings, and I don't know that we wanna start off this way on a brand spanking new building, is, I should get closer to my mic before I get yelled at, is when you have multiple electricians, they all do something slightly different, right? And so it gets a little messy when you have multiple contractors of the same trade in a building. And so I think the appeal to staying with the same contractor is they did the work initially. So they know what they did when they wired it. So I think that was the advantage of staying with this contractor from, I'm speaking for you, but from your perspective.
Correct.
There's nothing to say that we can't go get a quote from Ralph or Parsons or Hunt, or I don't know who did this, Hunt probably, but, we certainly can. But then you're just getting multiple electricians in a brand new building.
Or we could also go back and try to negotiate with
Yep.
them before we approved anything. We have not done that because we wanted to bring this to the council and see if there's an appetite to even do it, even if the cost is less. Is there an appetite to do it or not?
Where are we in the timeline? Like, how soon would you like to have this done?
Well, the building and the electrical's done.
Right, and it's
So-
running.
And everything's running. So there is,
Okay.
there's no rush from that standpoint. You're not gonna save any money if you approve it tonight versus next week.
Gotcha.
Because the building is, you're still gonna have to cut a hole through the wall, you're still gonna have to open up your panel and wire it and run the conduit and wire it, so.
I can understand Phil's request, continuity with using the same contractor. I guess it would be smart to ask him, do you have a more reasonable bid on this? If you think that it's that high, double, I think it'd be worthwhile to ask him. We think it's too high.
So Matt just obviously explained to us that he thought that this is about twice what it should be. Had I known that, I think we should
Well-
definitely just kind of.
I say twice when I look at the labor, or materials. The only thing I haven't considered is what did they budget for drilling a hole through the wall and fixing siding and all that. That's the only one I didn't count for. So maybe twice is a slight overstatement, but even that, there's not that much there to repair.
Right, I mean, and we just saw that with the road project, that the information you guys brought us was great. Your engineering estimates and your ideas, and then what you've seen in the field going up for bids, and I mean, I think it might be smart just to kind of pump the brakes on this for a minute. And I mean, that especially if their recommendation is that's a little high, or go back and talk to them and say, hey, what can we do here? Because we're kind of a ways away, ways apart. Regardless, I think this is smart for the city moves like to do. From an operator standpoint, I love it because, like I said, I like as many backups as possible. And when that one day comes and we need it, we're really glad we have it, right? I think we all agree with that. It's a lot of money, so.
So I think the direction that we need from you all is whether we should go forward with spending more time on seeing if this is the final quote, or if we can get the same product for less.
And to further clarify, that's 20,000, is that what they have, or 19,000? If it gets down to 10, is that a reasonable number or
Right.
not for the council?
Right.
And if the answer is no, then, then maybe you're not wasting anybody's time.
Right.
Council?
I was to say, I think in an emergency, we've experienced it with the flooding. When you're down and you need a generator and some won't, even $20,000 that you spent before would have been,
You spend that in a second.
saved on what all transpired after. So I would like to see them try to get this bill or this quote down and then go from there.
Go back and talk to them.
Because like I said, the same person working on something and it's better.
Everybody does something
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
different, so.
Yeah, and this will also have a prime contractor markup on it, so Lakehead is your contractor, you're contracted with Hunt. So there's gonna be a 15% markup built into that number that
Gotcha.
That's with every change order, the prime gets, by contract, they're allowed to mark up on things, so.
Which is exactly why we did the storm sewer directly with KTM.
So I guess that's the other question that I would have is, could we talk to Hunt directly and say, listen, if we close this project out and then the day after decide we wanna do this, what would that price be? So if we go directly to
The day that you have
them.
nothing to do, give us that price.
Yeah, right, right. Because there's also nothing to say that we have to have this done, right now, so.
I guess looking for consensus, Greg?
I would work on a better price.
Doug?
Yes, we're throwing around a lot of numbers here, and then we're picking apart the police department, so that kind of ticked me off a little bit.
You got yours, Chris Walter?
Yes.
I guess you got consensus?
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more item, S. Sprigg Depot and ATVs.
It goes back to what people have actually come, because I hear that much they complain, and the different people that work there, ATVs have not been what you want to see, necessarily cordial guests. There are times that we ask Phil to come up and re-level the parking lot because they seem to, it's an enjoyable time to see how many times they can whip circles in it and stuff. So, most of the people up there that have to put up with it, they're more on the lines that it wouldn't bother them at all if they weren't even allowed in the parking lot.
So currently they park there on the weekends, if I'm understanding this
Right,
correctly.
and there's times when they come in there, there'll be 15 or so of them and stuff, they'll be parked in every willy-nilly way that if you wanted to drive through to get to the museum or the event center, you'd have a hell of a time getting through. So,
Well, one thing was reported to me from the Historical Society in the morning before they get there, they have customers going through the museum, and as soon as the ATVs, there's no room for customers to come even to visit, so there are none.
well, the point is, they take up the first part of the parking lot if there's any number of them. I guess it's a food of thought on which way do we want to be and which way. I mean, is there another spot to put them? They have some parking on the south side of town, which I very seldom ever see them in that paved parking lot. And
Which parking lot?
there's one that's close to the canoe landing.
Oh,
That's actually in Moose Lake Township.
yeah, that's like the DNR one. Is that the one you're talking about?
Well,
Across
it's
from
all
the
flat
hospital?
top.
Yeah, across from the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think isn't that more for bicycles
I
and?
think that.
Well, I have no idea what it's called.
I think it's supposed to, I think it connects to the Munger.
It does, but it also connects to the way that they come into town and leave town on a four-wheeler.
Yeah, because that lot, like on the third, I mean, I know what you mean because they got those signs where they can only be so far and it was full, but one unloaded a trailer there on the third when I was there, got off it on a wheelie, flipped it over backwards right in the lot. I mean, I stopped 37 of them in one day out there for the same type of stuff. So it's whether or not you want to keep them in that lot, whether you have other activities going, because we can't watch them all the time and there's a lot. And with the trailers, it fills it up.
Well, they have parking on that dirt lot out by the freeway.
Freeway, yeah, they could park in there.
I mean, could we just close that down and direct them that way? I mean, because I'm wondering, if you had a big party there, say a wedding reception or anniversary, whatever, how would we, people are parked and gone, and then you have these people coming in and there's nowhere to park, how would we get those vehicles out of there?
If we actually, what happens is, we started to happen now is the fact is that if we have things like Depot Fest and stuff like that, we blocked it. There was no ATVs, period. We had gentlemen that directed traffic and stuff, and so, and there were a couple of ATVs that they were a little upset, but they were just,
Is that a state or county parking lot that's north
County, I believe.
county?
Yep. The one by the freeway?
Yep.
I believe it's county.
I imagine, you know, sometimes when I drive by there, it's completely full, but that was when COVID was raging. If they wanted to close down the one up there at the depot, maybe they could look at using the north one if there isn't enough room.
I guess my question is,
Maybe they could make it larger.
did we ever specifically allow ATVs to park in the depot parking lot? Like, was that ever like a, or did they just start doing
Probably
it?
before all of our time here.
Yeah, I don't recall, I was
It
thinking
goes way back
yeah.
into the probably 90s sometime when the ATV club and the snowmobile club, you know, they was snowmobile first and added ATV, and they set up, they did the ordinance where they could drive in town. They designated staging areas, and the depot was one of them. So if we change that, we would have to make a motion that it's no longer a staging area.
Because there's signage up there right now for ATVs.
It is
and
ATV
stuff like that.
parking.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It's always a mess there when they come. I think if we did a motion right now, that we would just make a lot of people mad. I think this is a good discussion with the ATV club.
And you might be
There's-
pushing people out of here, you know, once they load, you know, then they might go. So if you want more fuel and those kinds of things like that, I would just think about it. But it is an issue, Greg's right. I mean, it's crazy in there on those weekends and stuff. But I guess if we plan around the other events for now, and if there's gonna be something, we close it down.
My other question is, the 30 however many ATVs you stopped, how many were from around here and or part of those ATV clubs, those local ATV clubs? Probably not many.
Very few.
So
Probably none.
while I think it's worthwhile, I think it's a wonderful idea to talk to the ATV clubs about this, is it going to solve the problem? I don't think so.
I guess up to the council. If the council decide to move to close that as a staging area, the council has every right to do it.
And it may be something that we talk to them about and then we bring back maybe, when's your next meeting with them? Do you have one?
We don't, but I know we do have an event set up, can't remember the date, in August, for where we're gonna have the ATV clubs up there at the depot on the trail. DNR is gonna be out there, we'll be out there, fire department's gonna be out there, maybe some vendors, hot dogs, water, and stopping and talking to all the ATVs along the way to kind of get more of that message out and get them to join some of those clubs so that they understand that. And I have had several meetings this week alone with MnDOT again, and a lot of different people are moving forward. I think we're getting close to getting that trail all the way through now, the city here, and working on some pedestrian issues. It looks like we're getting funding thrown our way for that too.
Is that ATV event before our next city council meeting, our next city council meeting? is
Let me see if I have it on here. Hang on.
Just because I'm wondering if maybe we even just push this to September if it's not, so then we give them a chance to at least talk about this and let them know that this is something that we're going to be talking about again.
You know, also, we gotta take into consideration, the businesses that profit from these ATVs and side-by-sides. Well, we want everybody to be safe, and we want to have the business that are negatively affected corrected. You know, I think there's a lot we should think about, get the clubs, see if we can locate a different area they could perhaps stage in for next year. I mean, it's kind of.
Yeah, and Buddy would bring that point up, that's good. It's hard to change in mid-season. That's what we talked about last year, is if in the middle of the season to try and make a change. I mean, yeah, we could throw up closed signs and shut it right off, and they could have to go somewhere else, but it's always better to get it pushed through in the winter months when it's not the busy season. August 28th is the date of that event, so we'll have a council meeting before that.
Well, and then if we can figure out another place to have signage up, so, you know, we're not just blocking it off and saying, you know, because then we're gonna find people parking on the sides of the roads.
Yeah.
And so if we can find another place to say, oh, they come up here and it's, okay, we gotta go there, you know. They're gonna be
Right.
irritated, they gotta go somewhere, but at least they know they can find somewhere close to.
And I think we have one more issue to talk about with ATVs, and that is what's happening on that Earl Ellens Drive going by the arena. Guile is having more and more problems with ATVs literally going right through his signs, right through his taped area, literally right through the tape, going right across the parking lot. So we have an issue there with the Earl Ellens too, and I know if the trail is completed back there, our next thing is to cut that trail off there because it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Because right now, the way it would be set up is if we were even getting a bridge in to come across the Moosehorn to keep them off the state highway, that turn would be down Earl Ellens and hooking up to the trail right behind, you know, Phil's building there. And then that runs all the way down to Cenex where it would pick up into industrial so that they're off the main drag. So now we would have to just get creative on how we're gonna route.
How we can keep the
Those.
speed down there, because his problem is that they're just starting to race down Earl Ellens, and it sounded like he had a couple of close calls with pedestrians,
Yeah.
and then going right through his barriers to get to the stores or restaurants or gas stations. It's pretty brazen.
Yeah, I mean, you might have to get into where we're either popping some kind of poles or something, that they have to stay on that backside of them, or something to the effect that we have to control where they go, because once they come off that, over that bridge, you're gonna have to make that left to cut down to that trail where they do now, but we just need to have a defined area where they're gonna have to be. Because I talked to Guile as well, and
I guess that's more issue to come.
yeah. And I made, you know, my thing with MnDOT is they were like, well, we've never spent money on an ATV issue. Well, this isn't an ATV issue, it's a state highway issue because that's what they're running on. And now they're kind of getting that picture, and we've got a lot more people. I'll bet you there's 50 people involved in this right now from all different avenues, from pedestrian, ATV, traffic safety, Towards Zero Death is in on it now as well. And they're trying to throw some funding for overtime to go enforce it. We're still looking at an ATV to try and get some of those things done. So hopefully I think we're getting there, but we're better than we were last year.
But when they get stopped or whatever, how often do they actually get a ticket that they have to pay?
It depends, you know, on the violation, because a lot of them, like, I've stopped, there were 4 little kids probably under the age of 8 riding in the back of one, going right down the main drag, no helmets on, nothing, so we'll probably cite those people. Again, a lot of it now is that education piece. I know a lot of the DNR officers, they just cite, and I think one of them stopped close to 100 in a weekend.
Yes.
So.
That's what I mean, because if we've noticed some of you do it 50 miles an hour up 73 up the hill.
Yeah. Yeah, so the speeds, those kinds of things, if they just aren't familiar, it's just like, nope, you can't be out here. We give them the best route to get around. And again, if they're cordial, we get a lot of complaints where the ATVs are flipping people off and almost getting into fights, and yeah, so it's better this year than last. And I think some of the changes that we've made and directed, it's getting there. And the enforcement piece, we might be re-educating somebody every weekend because it's new people. Some are going to be repeat, but there's a lot of them. And I think it's being made statewide aware. And I think we were going to get a hold of our representatives as well. So I think that needs to happen because everybody through MnDOT it's such a big issue that the funding has to be there, and then the state's going to have to provide it before somebody gets hurt. So.
Does that help, Greg?
Move it.
It's
That's what I mean.
I
It's
think
just,
there's things gonna happen.
I mean, the only way, I guess, is like you're saying, that it changes is if you have some open conversations with people in different directions to it, would be to educate and, I mean, I've talked to some of them up there and stuff. Most of them are, the older ones are okay. I've had a couple of kids that wanted to get a little smart, but, you know, I'm sorry, I'm a little older.
I can try to have an officer up there, and our guys should know this by now too, is to get up there early, because your presence controls how the rest of the day goes. So if you're in there, you're visible, even talking or stopping to a few, then it usually controls the day, you know, so we'll try and work on that, get them up there early, you know, get out and talk to them. You know, we don't accept this.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, thanks, Darren. I know you've done a lot of work on it this year, and it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to number 7, for reports and correspondence, I have some, I think from Byron Custer. It's informational only. Pass this on to you guys. It's on his trails out there and tree removal on that land, something he's proposing. This is informational only this month. Give you guys some background of what he has looked at. He brought it to the park board and presented it, so that's why I'm passing it on to you, to give you some information on the background. And it's, we'll put it as an agenda item, but whatever, if the council is not interested in discussing it, it won't be, or if you are, that'll be your choice.
Thank you.
Informational thing. Do you want to?
Of course.
Like I say, just informational, and we're not looking even for discussion this month. And moving on to committee and board meeting minutes under 8. 8A is the Moose Lake Water and Light Commission for May 25th, 2021. B is the Moose Lake Economic Development for June 17th, 2021. 8C is the Moose Lake Park and Recreation, July 12th, 2021. Under 9, under announcements, we have the regular Moose Lake City Council meeting Wednesday, August 11th at 4 p.m. right here. Moose Lake Economic Development Authority, Wednesday, July 21st at 12 p.m., the city conference room. Moose Lake Water and Light Commission, regular meeting Tuesday, July 20th, 1 p.m. That's a little earlier at the city council chambers right here. Moose Lake Housing Redevelopment Authority Board, Monday, August 9th, 11 a.m. at the Hillside Manor office. Moose Lake Area Fire District, Tuesday, August 10th, 6:30 p.m. Emergency Response Center. And the Moose Lake Park Board, Monday, August 2nd, 6:30, right here in this room. With that, we have item P, which is Darren's contract renewal, and Q, which is Katie's contract renewal. So the city council will meet in closed session pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subdivision 2A to have a personnel discussion. The meeting will take place in the council chambers of the community center, 313 Elm Avenue. So we need a motion to recess.
Motion to close.
Motion to close. So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. So we will